The night sky shimmered with stars, but none of them compared to the sight that now loomed above Earth. A colossal silver ship descended silently through the atmosphere, its surface glowing faintly like liquid moonlight. Humanity had waited centuries for this moment-first contact with an alien civilization. And yet, as the ship hovered over the designated landing zone in a remote desert, fear mingled with excitement among the gathered scientists, diplomats, and military personnel. Ethan Carter stood at the edge of the crowd, adjusting his tie nervously. He wasn't a soldier or a politician. He was just a linguist, someone who spent most of his days deciphering ancient texts and teaching university students about the nuances of language. But when the United Nations announced they needed someone skilled in communication to represent humanity during this historic encounter, Ethan's name somehow made it onto the shortlist. Now, standing here under the shadow of the massive alien vessel, he couldn't help but wonder if he'd been chosen by mistake. The air buzzed with anticipation. As a ramp extended from the belly of the ship, bright lights spilled out, illuminating the dusty ground below. Then came the first glimpse of the visitors, the Luminari. They were unlike anything Ethan had imagined. Their forms seemed almost fluid, shifting between solid shapes and soft glows. Their skin, or whatever passed for skin, pulsing gently with colors that no human eye could fully comprehend. Each step they took radiated grace, as though gravity itself bowed to their presence. At the forefront of the group was the alien queen. Her form was taller than the others, her luminosity brighter, her aura commanding respect without uttering a single word. She wore intricate patterns across her body that shifted constantly, like living art. Beside her stood another figure, a younger version of herself, unmistakably her daughter. This one, however, caught Ethan's breath. Her features were delicate yet striking, her glow softer, more inviting. Her eyes sparkled with curiosity, and her movements carried a quiet elegance that felt almost hypnotic. As the delegation approached, Ethan struggled to focus. His heart pounded not out of fear, but something else entirely unfamiliar. It was all mixed with something deeper, something he couldn't quite place. When the Queen finally addressed the humans through a translator device, her voice resonated like a melody, calm yet powerful. "Humans," she began, "we come in peace, seeking understanding and connection." Ethan barely registered the words. His gaze kept drifting toward the Queen's daughter, Althea. There was something magnetic about her, something beyond physical beauty. It wasn't just how she looked. It was how she felt. Every glance she gave seemed to carry layers of meaning, emotions too complex for mere mortals to grasp. When the introductions began, Ethan found himself face to face with Althea. Up close, she was even more mesmerizing. Her presence filled the space around him, making everything else fade into insignificance. For a brief moment, their eyes met, and Ethan felt a strange warmth spread through his chest. He quickly looked away, embarrassed by his own reaction. Later that evening, after the initial meetings concluded, Ethan sat alone in his quarters aboard the temporary base set up near the alien ship. Staring at the ceiling, he replayed the days. Events in his mind. Why did Althea affect him so deeply? Was it her appearance, her demeanor? Or was it something else entirely, something he couldn't explain? Little did Ethan know, his fascination with Althea would soon become far more complicated. As he drifted off to sleep, the last thought lingering in his mind was her face and the overwhelming sense that she was watching him, even from afar. What Ethan didn't realize was that the Queen had already noticed his reactions. And she wasn't pleased. The next morning, Ethan woke up feeling uneasy. The memory of Althea's gaze lingered in his mind like a dream he couldn't shake. He tried to push it aside as he prepared for another day of meetings with the Luminari delegation, but something about her presence kept tugging at him. It wasn't just her beauty, it was the way she seemed to see right through him, as if she understood things about him that even he didn't fully grasp. When Ethan arrived at the meeting hall, the atmosphere felt different. The usual hum of activity had been replaced by an almost palpable tension. The alien queen sat at the center of the room, her glowing form exuding authority. Around her, the other Luminari moved with quiet precision, their movements fluid and deliberate. Althea stood slightly behind her mother, her expression unreadable. Ethan forced himself to focus on the task at hand, but his eyes kept drifting toward her as the discussions began. Ethan noticed that the Queen seemed unusually attentive to him. She watched his every move, her shifting patterns growing brighter whenever he spoke. At first, he assumed it was because of his role as the primary communicator, but then she did something unexpected. She interrupted the proceedings abruptly, her melodic voice cutting through the air. "Human," she said, addressing Ethan directly, "you have shown interest in my daughter." The room fell silent. Ethan froze, his face flushing red. He glanced around nervously, unsure how to respond. The Queen's words weren't accusatory, but there was a weight to them that made him feel exposed. Everyone's attention was now on him, including Althea's. Her luminous eyes met his, and for a moment, he forgot how to breathe. I don't know what you mean," Ethan stammered. Trying to regain his composure, the Queen tilted her head slightly, her glowing patterns shifting into intricate designs that seemed to pulse with emotion. "Do not misunderstand me," she continued. "It is not uncommon for beings of your kind to form attachments. But I must ask, why do you avoid her? Why do you not express your feelings?" Ethan's heart raced. He hadn't realized his reactions were so obvious or that they would be interpreted this way. He opened his mouth to explain, but no words came out. How could he possibly convey the complexity of what he was feeling? To him, Althea wasn't just beautiful. She was otherworldly, untouchable. The thought of pursuing anything with her felt absurd, almost disrespectful. "She's too beautiful," Ethan finally managed to say, his voice barely above a whisper. The room grew even quieter, if that was possible. For a moment, the Queen simply stared at him, her glowing patterns slowing down as though she were processing his response. Then, to Ethan's surprise, she let out a sound that resembled laughter, a soft, melodic ripple that filled the room. "Too beautiful?" the Queen repeated, her tone laced with amusement. "Is that truly your reason?" Ethan nodded hesitantly, unsure whether he'd offended her or amused her. "I'm only human," he added quickly, "and she's beyond anything I've ever seen. I don't think someone like me deserves someone like her." For a moment, the Queen studied him intently. Her expression softened and her glow dimmed slightly, taking on a warmer hue. "You misunderstand," she said gently. "Beauty among our kind is not meant to intimidate or divide. It is a gift, a reflection of the soul within. If you find her beautiful, it is because her essence resonates with yours. That is rare, human, very rare." Ethan swallowed hard, his mind racing. He wanted to believe her words, but doubt still clouded his thoughts. What could someone like him possibly offer to someone like Althea? Before he could respond, the Queen turned her attention to her daughter. "Althea," she said, her voice carrying a note of affection, "what do you think of this human?" All eyes shifted to Althea, who stepped forward gracefully. She looked at Ethan, her glowing eyes filled with a mixture of curiosity and warmth. For a moment she said nothing, simply observing him as though searching for something deep within his soul. Then softly she spoke. "He is honest," she said, her voice like a gentle breeze. "And he sees more than he realizes." Her words sent a shiver down Ethan's spine. Honest? Did she really see him that way? And what did she mean by sees more? Before he could ask, the Queen interjected once more. "Consider this carefully, human," she said, her tone firm yet kind. "My daughter has chosen to observe you closely. Do not dismiss her interest lightly." With that, the meeting resumed, leaving Ethan more confused than ever. As the day wore on, he found himself replaying the conversation over and over in his mind. Was the Queen testing him, warning him? Or was she genuinely encouraging him to pursue a connection with Althea? By the time he returned to his quarters that night, one thing was clear. The alien Queen's question had planted a seed of doubt and possibility in his heart. Could someone like him truly connect with someone like her? And if so, what would that mean for both their worlds? As Ethan lay awake staring at the ceiling, he couldn't help but wonder, had he misjudged Althea all along? The days that followed were a blur for Ethan. His mind was consumed by the alien Queen's words and Althea's enigmatic response. He replayed their interactions over and over, searching for meaning in every glance, every gesture. Was the Queen testing him? Was Althea truly interested in him, or was he misinterpreting everything? The questions swirled endlessly, keeping him awake at night and distracted during the day, despite his confusion. Ethan couldn't deny the growing pull he felt toward Althea. There was something about her presence that made the world around him feel sharper, more vivid. Even when she wasn't speaking, her quiet grace seemed to fill the room, leaving an indelible mark on everyone who crossed her path. For Ethan, it was both exhilarating and overwhelming. One evening, as the diplomatic meetings wound down, Ethan received an unexpected summons. A luminary messenger approached him with a formal request. The Queen wished to speak with him privately aboard their mothership. The invitation came without explanation, adding to Ethan's unease. What did the Queen want now? Had he said or done something wrong? With no choice but to comply, Ethan boarded a small shuttle that transported him to the massive alien vessel hovering above Earth. As he stepped inside, he was struck once again by its ethereal beauty. The walls shimmered with soft light, and the air carried a faint hum, like the ship itself was alive. Guided by the messenger, Ethan made his way to a chamber deep within the vessel, a place reserved for private audiences with the Queen. When he entered, the alien Queen was waiting for him, seated on what appeared to be a throne of pure energy. Her glowing form radiated power, yet there was also a sense of calmness about her. To Ethan's surprise, Althea was there too, standing quietly beside her mother. She looked at him with those luminous eyes, her expression unreadable but undeniably warm. Human, the Queen began, her voice resonating through the chamber. You have been troubled since our last conversation. Ethan hesitated, unsure how to respond. How much had she observed? Did she know about the sleepless nights and endless questions plaguing him? Finally, he nodded. I've been trying to understand, he admitted. What you said about Althea and about me, it's not something I'm used to hearing. The Queen tilted her head slightly, her glowing patterns shifting into intricate designs. Understanding takes time, she replied. But time is not infinite, even for beings such as ourselves. That is why I have brought you here tonight, to offer clarity. Before Ethan could ask what she meant, the Queen gestured toward Althea. With graceful movements, Althea stepped forward, closing the distance between them. She stopped just a few feet away, her glow dimming slightly, as though to make herself less intimidating. My daughter has expressed curiosity about your kind, the Queen continued, and you, human, have shown curiosity about her. This connection is rare and should not be dismissed lightly. Therefore, I invite you to spend time with her without the constraints of formalities or duties. Learn who she is, beyond her beauty. Discover if your souls resonate as they seem to. Ethan's heart skipped a beat. Spend time with Althea? Alone? The idea was both thrilling and terrifying. What could he possibly say to someone so extraordinary? Would she even understand his clumsy attempts at conversation? As if sensing his hesitation, Althea spoke softly. Do not fear, she said, her voice soothing. We are not so different, you and I. You see my light, but there is darkness within me too. Perhaps we can find balance together. Her words struck a chord deep within Ethan. Balance, that was something he understood. All his life he'd struggled to find equilibrium between logic and emotion, between responsibility and desire. Could Althea truly help him navigate those complexities? The Queen watched the exchange silently, her glowing patterns steady and serene. When neither Ethan nor Althea spoke further, she added, This is not a demand, human. It is an opportunity. Choose wisely. For a moment, Ethan stood frozen, weighing the implications of her offer. Then slowly he nodded. I'll do it, he said, his voice steadier than he expected. I'll spend time with her. A flicker of approval passed through the Queen's glowing form, and Althea's eyes brightened ever so slightly. Without another word, the Queen dismissed them. leaving Ethan and Althea alone in the chamber. As they walked side by side through the shimmering corridors of the mothership, Ethan felt a strange mix of nerves and anticipation. This was uncharted territory. Both of them. Whatever happened next, one thing was certain. Their worlds were about to collide in ways neither of them could have imagined. And deep down, Ethan wondered if this was the beginning of something extraordinary or the start of a journey he wasn't ready for. The corridors of the Luminari mothership seemed alive, their walls pulsing softly with light as though they were breathing. Ethan walked beside Althea, his footsteps echoing faintly against the shimmering surfaces. Despite the Queen's assurance that this was an opportunity, not a test, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that every step he took was being observed, analyzed, and judged. But more than anything, he felt out of place. Like a single flame flickering in an ocean of stars, Althea moved gracefully ahead of him. Her glow dimmed to a gentle luminescence that made her appear almost human. She glanced back occasionally, her luminous eyes meeting his with a mixture of curiosity and warmth. Each time she did, Ethan's heart skipped a beat. Her presence was intoxicating, yet it also left him unsure of how to act. Should he speak? Stay silent? Try to make small talk? Nothing felt natural. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of walking, Althea stopped in front of a large, arched doorway. With a wave of her hand, the door slid open, revealing a vast chamber filled with floating orbs of light. They hovered at different heights, each one glowing in unique colors and patterns. Some pulsed rhythmically, while others drifted lazily, casting soft hues across the room. "This is my sanctuary," Althea said, turning to face Ethan. "A place where I come to reflect. I thought you might find it interesting." Ethan stepped inside cautiously, taking in the surreal beauty around him. The orb seemed to respond to his presence, shifting slightly as though acknowledging him. He reached out instinctively toward one but hesitated, unsure if he should touch it. Sensing his uncertainty, Althea smiled, a gesture so subtle it almost went unnoticed. "They won't harm you," she assured him. "They are fragments of memory, emotions given form. You may interact with them if you wish." Encouraged by her words, Ethan extended his hand and gently brushed his fingers against the nearest orb. Instantly, a rush of sensations flooded his mind, images of distant planets, whispers of alien languages, and feelings of joy so profound they brought tears to his eyes. He pulled his hand back quickly, startled by the intensity of the experience. "That was," Ethan trailed off, struggling to find the right words. "Beautiful?" Althea suggested, her voice soft. "Painful? Both? Memories are rarely simple, even for us." Ethan nodded, still processing what had just happened. "Do all Luminari have places like this?" he asked, glancing around the chamber. "No." Althea replied, "This is unique to me. My mother believes it reflects my differences." There was a pause, as though she were choosing her next words carefully. "Among our kind, I am seen as unconventional. I value emotion over logic, connection over power. It is why I am drawn to your species. You feel deeply, even when it hurts." Her confession caught Ethan off guard. He had always assumed beings like the Luminari were perfect, untouchable. To hear Althea admit vulnerability, to see her acknowledge imperfection, was both humbling and disarming. "You're not what I expected," Ethan admitted, his voice tinged with awe. "And neither are you," Althea said, tilting her head slightly. "When I first saw you, I thought you were fragile, weak even. But now I see strength in your honesty, courage in your willingness to question yourself. That is rare among any species." Her words sent a shiver down Ethan's spine. No one had ever described him that way before. To Althea, he wasn't just a representative of humanity. He was someone worth understanding, worth knowing. As they continued to explore the chamber, Althea shared more about herself, her fascination with Earth's art and music, her struggles to fit into Luminari society, her longing to connect with something beyond her own world. In turn, Ethan opened up about his fears, his doubts, and the weight of responsibility he carried as humanity's voice in these historic meetings. For the first time since arriving on the mothership, Ethan felt a sense of ease, The barriers between them began to dissolve, replaced by a quiet camaraderie. By the time they left the sanctuary, the tension that had once hung heavy between them had transformed into something else entirely, a fragile bond, delicate yet undeniable. But as they returned to the main halls of the ship, Ethan noticed a group of luminari watching them from afar. Their expressions were unreadable, but their glowing forms shifted uneasily, as though unsettled by what they saw. Althea noticed too. She turned to Ethan, her gaze steady. "Not everyone will understand this," she said quietly. "But we must trust ourselves, no matter what others think." Ethan nodded, though uncertainty lingered in his chest. Whatever path lay ahead, it was clear that navigating it would require more than just courage. It would demand faith in something greater than either of them could fully comprehend. And as they parted ways for the night, Ethan realized one thing. For certain, Althea wasn't just changing his perspective on the universe. She was changing him. The days that followed were unlike anything Ethan had ever experienced. His time with Althea became a series of quiet moments filled with discovery and connection. They explored the mothership together, shared stories about their worlds, and delved into topics neither of them had dared to discuss before. For Ethan, it felt like stepping into a dream of fragile, beautiful reality where boundaries didn't exist. But as much as these moments brought him closer to Althea, they also began to reveal cracks in the foundation of their budding relationship. It started subtly. During one of their conversations, Althea mentioned the expectations placed upon her by her people. "Among the Luminari," she explained, "there is a belief that we are meant to guide lesser species, not connect with them." "My interest in you, it challenges that idea." Ethan listened intently, sensing the weight behind her words. "Does that mean others don't approve?" he asked cautiously. Althea hesitated, her glowing form dimming slightly. "Not all," she admitted. "Some see our connection as a threat to tradition, to order. Others view it as an opportunity for growth. But regardless of their opinions, I cannot ignore what I feel when I am with you." Her honesty touched Ethan deeply, but it also planted seeds of doubt in his mind. Was he selfish for pursuing this connection, knowing it could put Althea at odds with her own kind? Could their bond survive the scrutiny of two vastly different civilizations? These questions gnawed at him, especially after an encounter with a senior member of the Luminari delegation. The being, whose name Ethan struggled to pronounce, approached him during a diplomatic session. Its tone was polite but firm. "Your interactions with Althea have not gone unnoticed," it said, its glowing patterns shifting erratically. "You must understand the implications of your actions. This is not merely a personal matter, it affects us all." Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. He wanted to defend himself, to explain that he wasn't trying to cause trouble, but the words caught in his throat. Instead, he nodded silently, acutely aware of the eyes watching him from every corner of the room when he recounted the conversation. To Althea later that evening, her reaction surprised him. Rather than appearing worried or defensive, she seemed almost relieved. "I knew this would happen eventually," she said, her voice steady, "but I am glad you told me." "Secrets only make things worse," Ethan frowned. "Do you think we're making a mistake? Should we stop seeing each other?" Althea shook her head firmly. "No, what we share is real, Ethan. It may be complicated, but it is worth fighting for. If we let fear dictate our choices, then we lose everything." Her conviction gave him strength, but it didn't erase the growing tension surrounding them. Rumors began to spread among both humans and Luminari, whispers of favoritism, betrayal, and even danger. Some humans accused Ethan of prioritizing Althea over Earth's interests, while certain Luminari questioned whether Althea's attachment to him compromised her role as the Queen's heir. The strain reached a breaking point during a formal banquet held aboard the mothership. Representatives from both sides gathered to celebrate the progress made in their negotiations. The atmosphere was tense, with forced smiles and guarded glances exchanged across the room. Ethan stood near the edge of the crowd, nursing a drink and avoiding eye contact when he noticed Althea entering the hall. She looked radiant as always, but there was a sadness in her eyes that hadn't been there before Ethan could. Approach her, the alien queen rose from her seat, commanding the attention of everyone present. Her glowing form pulsed with authority as she addressed the gathering. Tonight we honor unity, she began, her melodic voice filling the room. But unity requires sacrifice. Let us remember that our choices shape not only ourselves, but the futures of those who follow. Her words hung heavily in the air, directed at no one yet piercing through everyone. Ethan glanced at Althea, who met his gaze briefly before looking away. In that moment, he realized the truth. The Queen's speech wasn't just a reminder, it was a warning. As the banquet continued, Ethan found himself unable to shake the feeling that their time together was running out. The divide between their worlds was widening, and bridging it would take more than love or understanding. It would require courage, a willingness to defy expectations and risk everything. But as Ethan watched Althea from across the room, he knew one thing for certain. Giving up wasn't an option. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together or not at all. The days following the banquet felt like walking on thin ice. Tensions between humans and Luminari reached a boiling point, with both sides accusing the other of favoritism and betrayal. Ethan found himself caught in the crossfire, his every move scrutinized by his colleagues and superiors. Rumors swirled that he was compromising Earth's interests for personal gain, while whispers among the Luminari suggested that Althea's attachment to him made her unfit to inherit her mother's throne. For Althea, the pressure was even worse. She faced criticism not only from her peers but also from members of her own family. One evening, as Ethan waited for her in the sanctuary they had come to cherish, she arrived visibly shaken. Her glow, usually soft and inviting, flickered erratically, betraying the turmoil within her. "They want me to choose?" Althea said, her voice trembling. "My duty to my people or you?" Ethan's heart sank. He had known this moment might come, but hearing it aloud made it feel unbearable. "What did you tell them?" he asked softly, afraid of the answer. "I told them I couldn't choose not." "Yet," Althea replied, sinking onto one of the glowing orbs that floated nearby. It dimmed slightly under her touch, mirroring her sadness. "But they won't wait forever, Ethan. My mother has been patient. But even she cannot shield me from the consequences of my actions." Ethan knelt beside her, searching for words that could ease her pain. "You shouldn't have to sacrifice who you are for anyone," he said finally. "If loving someone means giving up your dreams, then maybe love isn't worth it." Althea looked at him sharply, her eyes filled with emotion. "Is that what you believe? That we should give up because it's too hard?" "No," Ethan said, quickly, shaking his head. I don't want to be the reason you lose everything." For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The silence between them was heavy, charged with unspoken fears and doubts. Finally, Althea reached out and took Ethan's hand in hers. Her touch was warm despite her ethereal nature, grounding him in a way nothing else could. "You're not the reason I'm losing anything," she said firmly. "This is about more than us. It's about two worlds colliding, two ways of life, trying to coexist. If we can find a way to bridge that gap, if we can prove that connection is possible despite our differences, then maybe we can change things for the better." Her words ignited a spark of hope in Ethan, but it was fleeting. As much as he wanted to believe in their potential, the obstacles seemed insurmountable. How could they convince two civilizations to embrace something so unconventional when even those closest to them struggled to understand? The breaking point came sooner than either of them expected. A group of high-ranking Luminari approached the alien queen, demanding an end to Ethan and Althea's interactions. They argued that allowing such a relationship to continue risked destabilizing their society, undermining centuries of tradition and order. To Ethan's shock, some human leaders echoed similar sentiments, claiming that Ethan's focus on Althea jeopardized humanity's standing in the negotiations. Faced with mounting pressure, the Queen summoned Ethan and Althea to her chambers. When they arrived, her expression was unreadable, her glowing patterns shifting rapidly. For the first time, Ethan saw uncertainty in her demeanor, a crack in the armor of her usual composure. "This cannot continue," the Queen said, her melodic voice tinged with regret. Your bond has sparked division where there should be unity. Something must change. Ethan's stomach churned. He opened his mouth to protest, but Althea spoke first. "Mother," she began, her voice steady despite the tension in the room. "If you separate us now, you will only prove their fears correct. That connection between different worlds is impossible. Is that truly what you want?" The Queen hesitated, her glowing form dimming slightly. Then, after a long pause, she turned to Ethan. "Human," she said, her tone firm but not unkind. "Do you truly believe this connection is worth fighting for? Worth risking everything?" Ethan met her gaze without hesitation. "Yes," he said, his voice clear and resolute. "I do." Althea squeezed his hand, her glow brightening ever so slightly. Together they stood united, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, but as they left the chamber, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that the hardest battles were still to come and that the cost of their love might be higher than either of them could imagine. The days that followed the Queen's ultimatum were some of the hardest Ethan and Althea had ever faced. Both humans and Luminari seemed to close ranks, each side retreating into their own beliefs and fears. Diplomatic talks grew tense, with accusations flying back and forth. Some humans accused Ethan of prioritizing his feelings over Earth's future, while certain Luminari claimed Althea's attachment to him weakened her ability to lead. The weight of these judgments pressed heavily on them, testing the strength of their bond, but instead of giving in to despair, Ethan and Althea decided to fight not just for themselves, but for the possibility of unity between their worlds. They began working together to bridge the divide, using their unique connection as a testament to what was possible. When two vastly different beings chose understanding over fear one evening, during a particularly heated meeting aboard the mothership, Ethan stood up unexpectedly, silencing the room. His voice trembled at first, but as he spoke it grew stronger. "We're all afraid," he said, addressing both humans and Luminari. "Afraid of change, of loss, of the unknown. But if we let fear dictate our choices, we'll never move forward. What Althea and I share isn't a threat, it's proof that connection is possible even across the greatest divides." Althea stepped forward then, her glow steady and unwavering. "He's right," she added, her melodic voice resonating through the chamber. "Our bond challenges tradition, yes, but tradition exists to guide us, not confine us. If we cannot adapt, how can we grow? How can we truly call ourselves advanced?" Their words struck a chord. While not everyone agreed, there were murmurs of approval from both sides. Slowly, cracks began to form in the walls of mistrust and prejudice that had separated them in the weeks that followed. Ethan and Althea worked tirelessly to foster communication and cooperation. They organized joint projects where humans and Luminari collaborated on solving problems, everything from environmental challenges on Earth to technological advancements for interstellar travel. Through these efforts, people on both sides began to see each other not as strangers or enemies, but as partners striving toward a common goal. The turning point came during a ceremony celebrating the completion of one such project, a device designed to purify polluted water using Luminari technology. As representatives from both species gathered to mark the occasion, the alien queen addressed the crowd. "Today," she said, her glowing form radiating pride, "we honor not just an achievement, but a new beginning. My daughter has shown me, and all of us, that love and understanding are not weaknesses, but strengths. They remind us of who we are and who we can become." Her gaze lingered on Althea and Ethan, who stood side by side, holding hands. For the first time, neither felt out of place. Their differences no longer defined them. Instead, they became symbols of hope, a reminder that even the most unlikely connections could spark profound change. As the ceremony concluded, Ethan turned to Althea, his heart swelling with gratitude and love. "Do you think this is enough?" he asked quietly. "Have we done enough to prove that we belong together?" Althea smiled, her glow brighter than ever. "Belonging isn't about proving anything to others," she replied. "It's about believing in ourselves and in each other." From that day forward, Ethan and Althea continued to walk their unconventional path, facing challenges and celebrating victories along the way. Though their journey was far from easy, it was theirs a testament to the power of love, courage, and unity in a universe often divided by fear. And as they looked out at the stars together, hand in hand, they knew one thing for certain: their story wasn't just about two individuals finding each other, it was about two worlds learning to see beyond their differences and embrace the beauty of connection.